Hey, hey, hey. Time for the Out of This World story from rSpace. Turns out, motion detection doesn't just catch reckless drivers, it catches reckless decisions too. Today on rSpace, we're pulling over for a closer look at the kinds of choices that don't stay hidden for long. License and registration, please. My dashcam caught my wife sneaking her boss into our house. They both got fired, and she's being evicted. Throwaway account for obvious reasons. My wife, 32 female, and I, 34 male, have been married for 6 years. We don't have kids yet, but we've been talking about it for the past year. I bought a dashcam after nearly getting sideswiped on the highway. Nothing fancy, just a basic model that records when the car is running and has a parking mode to activate with motion. I installed it myself and didn't think much of it afterwards. Things started feeling off a few weeks ago. My wife began acting differently, staying late at work, being secretive with her phone, and generally being distant. At first, I chalked it up to stress from her new job. She was working for a demanding boss and was still trying to prove herself. But then I noticed more concerning behaviors. She started texting constantly but would quickly hide her phone whenever I walked into the room. She changed her phone password for the first time since I've known her. When I asked her about it casually, she said she was worried about data breaches at work and was updating all her passwords. 3 times in 1 week, she claimed she needed to stay late to help her boss prepare for important meetings. I offered to pick her up after work one night, and she got weirdly defensive, saying I didn't need to do that, and she'd just take an Uber home. Then, she started putting more effort into her appearance. New clothes, new lingerie I'd never seen before, more makeup. Again, I tried to rationalize it. Maybe she was just trying to look professional at her new job. But combined with everything else, my suspicions were growing. The breaking point came when she told me that she had a team building dinner on a Saturday night. Who has work events on Saturday nights? She came home around 11:30 smelling like alcohol and cologne that definitely wasn't mine. I checked our shared cell phone bill and found dozens of texts to a number that wasn't saved in her contacts. When I casually asked her who she was texting so much lately, she got defensive and accused me of spying on her. She asked why I was monitoring who she texted and if I didn't trust her. I backed off, not wanting to reveal how much I suspected. Instead, I decided to keep my eyes open and gather more information. I had a business trip scheduled for 3 days. It was a routine thing, nothing special, but my meetings wrapped up early, and I decided to head home a day ahead of schedule. I called my wife to let her know I'd be home early, and she sounded weirdly disappointed. She said she had already made plans to have dinner with a coworker, but she'd cancel. I told her no need to cancel since I'd be getting in around 2 p.m., so she could still do dinner. She seemed relieved. When I pulled into our driveway the next day, my dashcam activated as it always does when it detects motion. I didn't think anything of it at the time. I was about to get out of the car when I saw a black BMW pull up behind me. I recognized the car immediately. It belonged to my wife's boss. I'd seen it at the company holiday party a couple months back. Instead of getting out, I pretended to be on a phone call. Through my rearview mirror, I watched as my wife came out of the house. She was wearing a silk robe I'd bought for her anniversary. She walked up to her boss's car, leaned in through the window, and kissed him. Not a friendly peck, but a full-on passionate kiss. Then she took his hand and led him inside our house. I felt like I was going to throw up. I backed out of the driveway, drove down the street, and parked where I could still see our house, but wouldn't be noticed. I pulled out my phone and started recording video of her front door. I sat there for 90 minutes, feeling numb. Finally, the front door opened and her boss walked out. My wife followed him, still in her robe. They kissed again, right there in the doorway, completely visible to anyone passing by. He got in his car and drove off. I didn't confront her immediately. Instead, I drove to a hotel, checked in, and downloaded the dashcam footage to my laptop. I made multiple backups of everything. The dashcam footage, the video I took on my phone, screenshots of the text messages from the phone bill. Next morning, I called a lawyer. I explained the situation and asked about my options. Since we live in a no-fault divorce state, the infidelity wouldn't affect the division of assets much, but the lawyer advised me to gather as much documentation as possible anyway. The apartment was in my name only since I'd owned it before we got married, which gave me some leverage. I spent the day gathering financial documents, making copies of everything important, and securing my personal belongings. I returned to the apartment when I knew she'd be at work and packed up some essential items, just in case things got ugly. I emailed the HR department at my wife's company. I attached the dashcam footage and explained that her boss was having an inappropriate relationship with his direct subordinate. I knew this violated their company policy. I'd heard my wife mention it before when a different department had a similar scandal. I waited until the weekend to confront my wife. When she asked why I'd been distant since coming home from my trip, I connected my laptop to our TV and played the dashcam footage. Her face went pale. She stammered that she could explain. I asked how long it had been going on. She said it was just a mistake and only happened a few times. I laughed and pointed out that she brought him into our home and kissed him in broad daylight where any neighbors could see. This wasn't a mistake. It was a choice she made repeatedly. She started crying, begging me to understand that it didn't mean anything, that she still loved me, that we could work through this. I told her I'd already contacted a lawyer and that HR at her company knew about the relationship. She couldn't believe I contacted her company and accused me of trying to ruin her career. I replied that she ruined it herself when she decided to sleep with her boss. The next day, she got a call from HR, asking her to come in for a meeting. She screamed at me, saying I had no right to interfere with her job. 2 days later, she was fired. Her boss was fired too. Company policy was clear about relationships between managers and their direct reports, especially when the relationship wasn't disclosed. The power imbalance made it a liability for the company. With her job gone and our marriage over, I officially filed for divorce. Since the apartment was in my name only, I served her with eviction papers, giving her 30 days to vacate as required by local laws. She insisted I couldn't kick her out and asked her where she was supposed to go. I told her that wasn't my problem and she should have thought about the consequences before cheating. She started calling and texting me constantly. One minute, she'd say she still loved me and made a terrible mistake. The next, she threatened to tell everyone I was abusive. I wasn't, if I didn't let her stay. I documented everything. Every text, every voicemail, every email. My lawyer advised me to communicate with her only in writing when possible, so there would be a recording of everything. Some of our mutual friends took her side at first. She'd apparently been telling them that I overreacted to a one-time mistake and was now trying to make her homeless out of spite. I didn't want to drag others into our drama, but I couldn't let her control the narrative either. I showed a few close friends the Dashcam footage. They immediately stopped defending her. My friend Mark said he had no idea it was like that. She made it sound like it was just a kiss at an office party or something. Meanwhile, her boss reached out to me. He sent an email threatening legal action for destroying his career. I forwarded it to my lawyer without responding. My lawyer said his threat was empty. The footage was obtained legally on my own property, and I had every right to report workplace misconduct to HR. As the eviction deadline approached, my wife became more desperate. She tried to access our joint bank account to transfer funds, but I'd already moved most of the money to a separate account, leaving only her portion of the joint one. She accused me of stealing her money. The account records clearly showed I'd only taken what I had contributed. She refused to make arrangements to leave the apartment. The 30-day notice came and went, and she was still there, claiming she had nowhere to go and couldn't afford a new place without a job. I filed formal eviction proceedings with the court. She asked if I was really going to make her homeless after 6 years together. I told her she wasn't homeless, just not living here anymore. I suggested her boss could put her up since they seemed cozy together. I suspect things weren't going well with her boss either. He probably just wanted the thrill of sleeping with his assistant and wasn't looking for anything serious, especially now that they'd both lost their jobs over it. I installed security cameras in the common areas of the apartment, with my lawyer's approval, to protect myself and my property. It was a good thing I did because I caught her damaging some of my belongings out of spite. She accidentally spilled wine on my gaming computer and didn't realize she'd scratched my car key across my leather couch. I documented everything and added it to the eviction case. The court date was set, and I was confident I'd win. The apartment was in my name, I had documentation of her destructive behavior, and I had followed all the legal requirements for eviction. The eviction hearing is coming up soon. I should be able to get her out of the apartment quickly. The divorce will take longer, but at least I'll have my space back. I'll update when there's more to share. Her trying to play it off like it was just some random mistake. Come on! You don't just accidentally sneak around in a robe and hop into your boss's car in the middle of the night. That was the whole situation, not a slip-up. Update. In my last post, I told you about catching my wife cheating with her boss in our home, getting them both fired, and starting eviction proceedings. Well, a lot has happened since then, and I wanted to give you all an update. The eviction hearing went exactly as my lawyer predicted. The judge ruled in my favor and gave my wife 7 days to vacate the premises. She sat there in shock as the judge explained that since the apartment was in my name only, I had followed all legal procedures for eviction. She had no right to continue living there. The judge also noted the documented property damage, which didn't help her case at all. When we left the courtroom, she tried to talk to me, saying she still had nowhere to go. I just walked away. Her housing situation wasn't my problem anymore. While preparing for the divorce proceedings, my lawyer discovered something concerning in our finances. He noticed that my wife had been making small but frequent transfers from her joint account to somewhere else. These transfers had been going on for months, and they were adding up to a significant amount. My lawyer suggested that she might be hiding money in preparation for the divorce. I wasn't surprised at all. If she could lie about cheating, she could lie about money too. He recommended hiring a financial investigator to dig deeper. It would cost extra, but I decided it was worth it. She was trying to steal from me. I wanted to know. The financial investigator was worth every penny. He discovered that my wife had a secret bank account she hadn't disclosed during divorce proceedings. she'd been funneling money from our joint account into the hidden account for months. These transfers started long before I caught her cheating, almost 3 months before the incident with her boss. This meant she'd been planning something for a while. Maybe she was preparing to leave me for her boss, or maybe she just wanted a safety net. Either way, she was hiding marital assets, which is a big no-no in divorce court. A lawyer explained that while she was legally allowed to withdraw money from the joint account, her failure to disclose the secret account during divorce proceedings was a serious issue. Not only had she hidden marital property, but she'd committed perjury by not disclosing all her assets to the court. The consequences would be severe. I wanted to confront her immediately, but my lawyer advised against it. Better let her find out in court. And man, was it satisfying when she did. When my lawyer presented her findings to the judge, her face turned bright red. Everyone in the courtroom looked at her, and her own lawyer seemed completely blindsided. The look of shock and embarrassment on her face was priceless. The court immediately issued an order to freeze her hidden account. As it turned out, she'd been putting most of her personal savings in there too, not just the money from our joint account. With that account frozen, she was basically broke. I know this because she called me that evening, begging me to talk to my lawyer about unfreezing her account. She claimed she needed that money to find a new place to live now that she was being evicted. I asked her why she thought I would help her after she tried to hide money from me in the court. She'd been asking for half of what was left in our joint account while secretly siphoning money from it for months. She was trying to rob me, and now she wanted a favor. Then I told her something that made her even more upset. I'd already contacted the bank and had our joint account frozen too. Now neither of us could access that money until the court decided how to divide it. She started yelling, saying I was trying to cheat her and that freezing the account wasn't legal. I explained that the bank would only unfreeze it if we both agreed, and I had no reason to do that. I had my own personal savings that I had properly disclosed to the court, so I wasn't doing anything illegal, unlike her. The financial deception completely backfired on her. In the final divorce settlement, I was awarded all the money in our joint account and 70% of the money in her hidden account. Her lawyer managed to argue that some of the money was from her personal earnings, which is why I didn't get 100% of it. But still, it was a significant win for me. She also couldn't get alimony. Her lawyer tried, but since she had a job before getting fired and had attempted to hide assets, the judge denied the request. On top of that, she was ordered to pay a fine for the perjury and cover the cost of the financial investigator who uncovered the secret account. By the time everything was finalized, she was in a terrible financial situation. About 2 months after the divorce, she reached out to me again. She said she was struggling to stay afloat financially. The divorce had drained her resources, and her cousin, where she'd been staying, was getting tired of having her around. Apparently, the cousin had been dropping increasingly obvious hints about when would she be getting her own place. She told me she had no way to afford rent for a new apartment and just needed some time to get back on her feet. When I asked what exactly she was asking for, she admitted she wanted to stay with me temporarily. I reminded her that we were divorced specifically because I didn't want her in my life anymore, and there was absolutely no chance of her moving back in, even temporarily. I suggested she could move in with her boss since they seemed close before. She completely avoided addressing that comment, which made me think they weren't together anymore. My guess is he was just having fun with a married woman and bailed as soon as things got complicated. So much for their special connection. She kept trying to convince me, saying it would just be for a few weeks until she found a job. When she realized I wouldn't budge, she switched to guilt tactics. She blamed me for her situation, saying I had stolen her savings and left her with nothing. This is a pattern with her, always blaming others for problems she created. I reminded her that she was the one who hid the account from the court. I had savings too, but I disclosed them properly. She insisted I had stolen her emergency fund and demanded I return it. I told her the money was awarded to me by a court order, and if she wanted to challenge that, she could talk to her lawyer. It wouldn't do her any good, but she was welcome to try. That's when she started calling me names and accused me of financial abuse, which is ridiculous since we weren't even together anymore, and she was the one who tried to hide money. I told her to not contact me again and hung up. I'm fully committed to no contact now. I never wanted to stay in touch with her, but I hadn't actively avoided her either. Since she keeps reaching out just to blame me for her problems, I decided to cut her out completely. She's called several times since then. I answered once to reiterate that I didn't want to speak to her again, and I haven't picked up since. My doorbell camera caught her coming by the apartment once when I was home, but she hasn't returned. I don't know what's happening in her life now, and honestly, I don't care. I assume her cousin eventually kicked her out and she had to find somewhere else to stay. She had a good life and threw it all away for someone who clearly didn't care about her beyond the excitement of the affair. Thanks for the comments and all of the support. She really thought she could cheat, lie, siphon money, and still come out on top? Unreal. And then to have the nerve to ask for a place to stay after all that? Some people have zero self-awareness. Final update. I figured I'd give you all the final chapter of this saga. A lot has happened, and I think this will be my last post. First, the divorce is officially finalized. All assets have been divided according to the court's ruling, and I'm legally a single man again. The apartment is completely mine, though I've decided to sell it and move somewhere new. Too many bad memories here, and I'm ready for a fresh start. A month after my last post, I received a message from a woman I didn't know. It turned out to be my ex-wife's boss's wife. She had somehow found me online and wanted to talk. I agreed to meet her. She thanked me for exposing the affair. Apparently, this wasn't her husband's first time cheating with an employee. She'd suspected something was going on for months, but had no proof. When I reported them to HR and they both got fired, it confirmed her suspicions. She'd filed for divorce immediately after finding out. Her divorce settlement was substantial since they'd been married for 15 years and had significant assets. She got the house, half his retirement, and considerable alimony. He was now living in a small apartment and struggling financially after losing his high-paying job. No company wanted to hire him after finding out he was fired from his last position. She also mentioned that her ex-husband and my ex-wife had briefly lived together after they both got evicted. Her from my apartment, him from their house. But it only lasted about 3 weeks before they had a massive fight and split up. Apparently the relationship wasn't so magical when they had to deal with real-life problems like unemployment and housing insecurity. Speaking of my ex-wife, she's made several more attempts to contact me since my last update. She even created a new email address and social media accounts to get around my blocks, begging for financial help. I documented everything but didn't respond. 2 weeks later, I received a formal letter from her new lawyer, a different one than her divorce attorney, threatening to sue me for intentional infliction of emotional distress and defamation. The letter claimed I had maliciously reported her to HR and shared private videos with the intent to destroy her reputation and career. I forwarded the letter to my lawyer, who responded with a scathing letter of his own. He pointed out that the dashcam footage was legally obtained on my own property, that reporting workplace misconduct to HR is protected activity, and that truth is an absolute defense to defamation. He also mentioned the restraining order and suggested that further harassment could result in criminal charges. We haven't heard from her or her lawyer since. I learned that my ex-wife finally found a job at a small local company, making significantly less than she did before. She's living with a roommate in a cheap apartment across town. She's apparently been telling anyone who will listen that I overreacted to her one mistake and vindictively destroyed her life. Fortunately, most of our mutual friends know the truth and have stopped engaging with her. As for me, I've been focusing on healing and moving forward. I've been in therapy, which has helped me process the betrayal and work through trust issues. I even went on a few casual dates. The apartment is now on the market, and I've already had a few promising showings. I'm looking at places in a different neighborhood, possibly even a small house with a yard. The divorce settlement left me in a good financial position, so I have options. That dashcam was the best purchase I ever made. The boss's wife and I have kept in touch casually. We're not close friends or anything, but we check in with each other occasionally. She's doing well and has started dating again, which is encouraging to see. Thank you all for support and advice throughout this journey. It has helped more than you know to have people validate my feelings and confirm I wasn't overreacting. Here's to new beginnings and leaving toxic people in the past. Your ex and her former boss torched their own lives. 3 weeks? That's almost impressive in how fast it crashed and burned. Her actions had consequences and now she's facing them, without the backup plan she thought she had. Therapy, dating, selling the apartment. You're really reclaiming your life, OP. And that's awesome. And yeah, that dashcam was the best investment ever. Let's all take notes. What's the craziest thing your dashcam has caught on camera? Let us know in the comments below. And thank you for joining us today on rSpace. Be sure to like and subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on our next video. See you next time.